Years ago, in a small town somewhere in America, a young couple named Emily and John bought an old, abandoned Victorian house. The locals warned them about it, calling it the cursed house because no one had lived there for decades. The first night in the house seemed normal, but as midnight approached, strange noises started echoing through the halls, footsteps creaking on the wooden stairs, distant whispers, and doors opening and closing by themselves. John thought it was just the wind, but Emily felt like something more sinister was present. The next day, they discovered a small basement room that wasn't marked on any floor plans. It was filled with dust, and on the walls, strange Latin inscriptions and eerie symbols were carved. Emily was terrified, but John, an architect, tried to stay calm. That night, Emily woke up to see a tall, dark shadow moving slowly toward their bed. Her heart pounded, but she couldn't scream or move. The shadow whispered in a chilling voice, "You shouldn't be here." The following morning, Emily and John decided to leave the house, but to their horror, the front door was locked, and their keys had vanished. They were trapped inside for hours, alone and terrified, until finally, the door mysteriously unlocked itself, allowing them to escape. Later, they learned the house had a dark history. In the 19th century, a secret religious cult had performed forbidden rituals there, and the restless spirits they unleashed still lingered, refusing to leave. In 1995, a family of four, Robert, Sarah, and their two children, Alex and Maya, decided to buy an old, large house in a northern European town. The house was over 150 years old, and its low price made it very attractive to them. But they soon realized the house held things that had no logical explanation. On their very first night, the wall clocks began ringing strangely, not in a normal pattern, but continuously and oddly, as if time itself was lost. Every morning when they woke up, they noticed time was moving strangely. For example, a clock on the wall might show 7 a.m., but when they went out and came back, the clock still showed the same time. Alex, their 2-year-old son, saw shadows darting through the room several times, accompanied by faint, incomprehensible laughter. Maya, the younger sister, claimed she spoke at night with a woman dressed in white who always stood by her bed. Robert and Sarah tried to dismiss it as stress and exhaustion, but soon they too started seeing strange things. The wall clocks kept ringing non-stop, and when they tried to leave the house, the doors would lock themselves, as if time was trapped inside. One night, Sarah dreamed the woman in white told her, "Time is trapped here, and we can't escape this loop." After that dream, the family tried to flee the house, but each time they attempted, they found themselves back at the starting point, as if space and time were frozen within the walls. Finally, after several weeks, with the help of a local priest and a ritual, they managed to break the curse and escape the house. Later, they discovered the house had once belonged to a young woman who had mysteriously died there, and her restless spirit had been trapped, unable to find peace. In the 1982nd, in a small town in England, a lonely woman named Mary decided to buy an old mirror from a local auction. The mirror was large and beautiful, but on its back were strange inscriptions in an ancient language that Mary couldn't understand. The first night she brought the mirror into her bedroom, strange things began to happen. When Mary stood in front of the mirror, her reflection didn't look normal. Sometimes her face would blur, and a dark shadow appeared behind her, something she couldn't see directly. At night, whispers came from the mirror, voices filled with hatred but unintelligible. Mary gradually realized that every time she looked into the mirror, worse things happened around the house. Objects moved on their own, lights flickered, and she felt like someone was watching her. One night, while Mary was standing in front of the mirror, her reflection suddenly changed. A terrifying face with glowing red eyes and an open mouth lunged at her and screamed. Mary screamed in fear and smashed the mirror. But the terrifying part was that breaking the mirror didn't end the curse. After that, every time Mary looked into other mirrors, she saw the shadow of that same terrifying creature slowly getting closer to her. Mary had to leave her house and return the mirror to the auction, but no one knew how the curse was transferred or if it would come back for someone else. In the outskirts of a small town in Europe, there was a dense forest known as the Whispering Woods. Locals always warned travelers not to enter after dark, saying the forest was cursed and haunted by restless spirits. But in 2017, a group of friends decided to explore the woods at night for a thrill. The group, consisting of 4 friends, Anna, Mark, Lisa, and David, entered the forest just before sunset. At first, everything seemed normal. Birds chirped, and the fading sunlight created eerie shadows between the trees. But as darkness fell, the atmosphere changed completely. They began hearing faint whispers, like voices carried by the wind, but no one else was around. As they walked deeper, the whispers grew louder and more urgent. Lisa suddenly stopped and pointed at a clearing ahead, where the trees seemed twisted unnaturally, almost like they were reaching out. The friends decided to set up camp there for the night. That's when strange things started happening. Anna's phone, which had full battery, suddenly died. Then, Mark felt something brush past him, something cold and invisible. They all heard footsteps circling the camp, but when they looked, no one was there. David, trying to keep calm, suggested they stick together. But as they moved, the whispers turned into clear voices calling their names, begging them to stay forever. Panic set in. Lisa saw a figure in the distance, a shadowy silhouette with glowing eyes staring right at them. They tried to leave, but the forest seemed to shift around them. Paths disappeared, and familiar trees looked alien. Hours felt like minutes, and the night stretched endlessly. At dawn, exhausted and terrified, they finally found their way out. But as they reached the edge of the woods, Lisa looked back and saw dozens of shadowy faces peering from the trees, whispering, "Come back." Years later, the friends never spoke much about that night, but sometimes Lisa says she still hears the whispers in the wind calling her back to the Whispering Woods.